As the never-ending calamity known as 2020 nears its end and the last of the holidays roll around, I like to take the time to reflect, not on aliens or killer insects or global pandemics, but on something a little less depressing. I'm talking anime. You read the title and you saw the thumbnail. What did you expect? Among the many happenings of the year, one is the attack on and vilification of anime and 2D waifus everywhere, led in part by antagonist 10 Commandment of Entitlement, the Karen. Various light novels have been banned from digital stores, anime studios are being pressured to censor shows, Sony has even censored various anime games due to its sexual content policy, even though many of its other games seem not to have to abide by this same policy. That's right, I'm looking at you, Last of Us 2. I bet by now you're wondering what the hell any of this has to do with Jericho from the Seven Deadly Sins. Well, nothing really other than her being an anime character. I'm not really here to talk about why anime should be left alone by these new age Puritans. I just want to share my appreciation for anime and Jericho in particular today. So basically, this is just a however long love letter to Seven Deadly Sins, Apprentice Holy Knight.
Jericho!
When she was first introduced, Jericho was a relatively weak but arrogant Apprentice Holy Knight. I remember when the first time I seen her, and the first thought that went to my mind was, who is this chick with all this mouth and this thick ass suit? That chick was a woman who hid her femininity behind an air of masculinity to avoid ridicule and weaknesses she believed to go hand in hand with being a woman. She believed if she acted manly, she would seem more powerful. But this ideology was shattered when Bond did Bond type of stuff and humiliated her by getting her to cut his hair and beard in the midst of their first encounter. Not only did Bond embarrass her as a woman, but also as a fighter, something she couldn't bear to stand. Jericho always sought acknowledgement and validation as a holy knight from the likes of those like her brother, Gustav. So it's not surprising that eventually she reached a point where power was more important than anything else, regardless of what it would cost. She drank demon blood, making her a new generation holy knight, a holy knight augmented by demonic power. And boy, if you thought she had an attitude at first. Along with this power came a boisterous sense of superiority and a more condescending, callous, and ruthless nature. The woman was a walking insult machine with some grudges to settle, and Bond's name was on the top of that grudge list.
How much further to Visel?
You really shouldn't get so worked up, Jericho. It won't be long.
I can't wait anymore. I'm ready to unleash the full extent of my new power.
Although this isn't a video about Jericho's psychological turnaround, it's important to mention how she started in order to fully illustrate the full impact of her preciousness and waifuness, if that's even a word. In her blue jumpsuit, Jericho. Wait, is that a jumpsuit or a onesie? Well, it's definitely not a onesie, but jumpsuit doesn't feel quite right either. Whatever the hell it is, she looks fucking adorable in it, and I have no shame in saying that. It's hard to say whether Jericho's attitude changed was due to the loss of her powers after going berserk, or her budding infatuation with Bond, or some combination of the two. But this new development allowed her to replace her power-hungry nature with genuine selflessness and care, and it's not like this selflessness came at no cost to her own desires. Imagine, just for a moment, knowing no matter how hard you try, how hard you love or wish, you'll never be enough for someone. Imagine being locked in that shadow, trapped in a prison of your own emotions and circumstances that you couldn't break free of, even if you had the key. That is the life Jericho lives, in love with a man who can never return her affection, Bond, in competition with a woman who has already won the race, Lolly Fairy Elaine. However, her persistence in staying in Bond's company isn't what makes her so great. It's her willingness to accept losing to Elaine, combined with her unrelenting and unyielding support for Bond and Elaine, that makes Jericho so great and so precious. Jericho possesses a heart that exists only in fiction, and arguably only in anime. To this extent, anyway. I can't imagine devoting 5 minutes of my time, let alone my life, to someone who calls me their wallet and shows me about as much interest as a gnat. I can't imagine following them anywhere or carrying them 2 feet to an ambulance if they broke a leg. But Jericho? She would 1,000 times over, and it's that beauty and that sense of affection, greater than oneself, that is hard to appreciate in real life. When Elaine was resurrected by Malascula, Jericho played a vital role in snapping her back to her senses by chastising her for having the audacity to claim to love the man she savagely hurt.
He saved my life! I owe him everything, understand? I would do anything for him! Anything for his sake! But more importantly, I'd drop dead before I'd do something to hurt the man I love! I'd rather die! But it doesn't matter. There's no room in his heart for anyone but you.
I'll drop dead before I do something to hurt the man I love. I'd rather die. Those were Jericho's words as her heart broke. She knew she would always be bested by the Lolly Fairy, because when it came to capturing Bond's love, Jericho had about as much of a chance as me getting around to mother my children. But I digress. Bond's mind couldn't be changed and his heart refused to waver. He loved Elaine. Jericho wasn't just A-okay with being the side chick though. She pouted, she scoffed, and was generally annoyed by their lovey-doveyness. And she clearly thought she was the better woman for Bond. Jericho didn't want to just let Elaine have Bond, but because Bond was everything to her, and Elaine was everything to him, Jericho had to let Elaine have her everything. This sacrifice led to Jericho and Elaine quickly developing genuine affection for one another. Jericho even took a boulder to the face to protect Bond and Elaine during Gallant's and Molasculous assault. A damn boulder. Ignoring how she should have been crushed like a character in a retro Tom and Jerry's episode, there's no way you can't have mad respect for that. Clearly a scenario like this will probably never happen, mainly because life isn't an anime filled with love-struck beauties in blue jumpsuits willing to catch a small mountain or their forehead for unattainable love. Imagine. Secondly, people just don't put aside their desires for the sake of another's, regardless of how selfless they may be. At least, not the way Jericho does. I believe it's human nature that we seek our own happiness, our own goals, and our own desires first and foremost. Anything else is kinda illogical, really. But in anime, characters like Jericho delve a little bit deeper. They allow us to observe the beauty in what seems like unreasonable, irrational, and excessive altruism, which inspires us, even if only for the shortest amount of time, to love a little bit harder than we do, care a little bit more than we do, and appreciate a little bit more than we do. And you know exactly what I'm talking about if you ever watched a touching anime scene and wanted to hug someone or call up your mom or even your homie and tell them you love them.
As soon as I'm done here, I'm leaving this forest. I'm gonna go look for a way to bring Elaine back to life.
Then I'm going with you.
This has nothing to do with you.
Like hell it doesn't. You're the man I owe my life to, or don't you remember?
Yeah, I just don't care.
In a world where a lot of people, and even a majority of our companies, are parasites looking to siphon as much as they possibly can from others, it's revitalizing to see someone dedicate their all to something or someone and not demand something in return, even if it's only in fiction. So, to conclude this love letter, to be clear, anime and manga isn't a substitute for real-world benevolence, but it does well in magnifying the compassion in life that seems to be eclipsed at times by the ugliness and injustices of real life. Anime is great for reminding us of the precious qualities that each one of us possess that we sometimes forget that we have. Like Jericho, it's just hiding behind that junk that just doesn't matter as much.